Big Pharma, the FDA, and CDC are in bed together. And how is this affecting your health? Today, I'm going to be talking about how this relationship works, how they control the narrative, and how they are profiting off of making you sick.
You're watching the Dr. Jake podcast.
I'm Dr. Jake. I'm an naturopathic medical doctor and integrative physician in the state of Utah. On this channel, I share with you how you can heal your body naturally and treat the symptoms of the disease without any harmful drugs or surgery. Be sure to stick around to the end because I'm going to be talking about how this is directly affecting your health. The CDC is more over infectious disease. And to keep them relevant, we need to make sure that there's still disease around, right? So if diseases aren't really around, or if there's not pandemics going around, CDC isn't really relevant. So they're there for that. We have the FDA is kind of our watchdog. They're going to be monitoring certain drugs or foods that are coming out on the market and making sure that they are safe. That's what they're supposed to be doing. And then we have the NIH, NIAD. They are also over infectious diseases, autoimmune diseases, environmental stuff. So they're over a lot of the health related aspects of the health of the United States. And then we have obviously Big Pharma. They are the ones that are making the pharmaceutical medications. They're the ones researching development of these drugs that are going to come out to the market. And then we have all these three regulatory agencies that I'm talking about working with Big Pharma to come out with these certain drugs. So they work synergistically together and they are in bed with each other, helping each other out.
So, how do they help each other out? When you hear it, right? When you first hear about each one of the role, it sounds right. Sounds about right. It's like, oh, we should have a watchdog. We should have researchers. We have those that make the medicine. Like, what's wrong with this? How is this in bed relationship scary?
Yeah, so the issue is it sounds really great that the FDA is going to make sure everything's really good and healthy, and we're not going to get any drugs out there that are harming people. We're not going to get any foods out there that are harming each other. That does sound great if they're actually independent, non-biased sources. And that hasn't been the case for a really long time. At least my entire lifetime, I haven't been able to see that that was the case. So they work synergistically together to help each other. So let's discuss how this works. Okay. So we have Big Pharma that wants to make money off of their pharmaceutical drugs. That's their main purpose of it. And then we have our regulatory agencies, the CDC, the FDA, the NIAD, NIH. They are supposed to be monitoring and making sure that the health of the United States is good. Obviously, we know that the health of the United States isn't good. We could dive into that we are probably the worst industrialized country in the world for our generalized health. So it doesn't seem like they're really doing a great job right now. But that's a side tangent there. So how do they work synergistically together? Okay, let's say the CDC finds that there is a certain disease that we need to go after, like HIV, or let's say the swine flu or other pandemics that are occurring right now. They want to formulate a drug. So they go to the pharmaceutical industry to start making this certain type of drug. That sounds good and great. The pharmaceutical industry is going to make something, and the CDC needs that certain medication. So the problem is that people in the CDC or people in the FDA or people in the NID, NIH are making money off of the drug that's being made. So the CDC has patents on vaccinations. So how could they be a non-biased source of information and actually making sure that this drug that's coming out, this vaccination that's coming out is actually healthy when they are actually making money off of this certain medication that's coming out? That group of the CDC is making the money. There's also certain individual researchers that are making money off of each individual drug that's being done. That's in the vaccination realm. That's with the autoimmune medication realm, the anti-infective, antiviral medications that are being done. The industries are making money, also the certain individual groups. It might sound crazy that this is the case, but this is actually does happen, and they don't really talk about this very much. It's kind of brushed under the carpet and it's not discussed. Also, a lot of our high ups in the FDA or CDC or NIH, they used to work for the pharmaceutical industry. Might sound good. Okay, they know how the pharmaceutical industry works. We need to work synergistically together, but they are kind of what we were saying in bed together. They want to benefit each other. So they want to make each other better. So the government's going to look a lot better if they come out with this drug that's going to save a certain life-threatening disease, right? Let's say HIV, swine flu, COVID-19 pandemic, whatever. They're going to sound really awesome when they have a drug that's going to treat that. Also, the pharmaceutical industry is going to really love that because they're going to profit a great deal off of that. So The government has a lot of push that they want this drug to be good. They want to make sure that this drug is good. And there's a lot of manipulation of the research to make sure that this drug does do good. Also, let's dive into like where funding happens for this research, like in our universities or elsewhere where research is being done on certain diseases. So, the money many times is coming from the pharmaceutical industry. They give certain grants, they give money for this research to be done. They also want independent researchers to be done. And these independent researchers are making money off of the pharmaceutical industry because they're doing the testing for them. And let's say these researchers figure out that this drug is a bad drug and it's really not good for the community and it's really causing more harm than good. The pharmaceutical industry is not really going to go back to that research group again. So there's a lot of biases. Okay, as a researcher, you're like, okay, I need my funding, I need my research. That's how things are done. I need to make my funder happy. So what they do is they manipulate the research a little bit to make it sound like that drug is better than it really is because the funder of this source for coming from Big Pharma is paying majority of the money. So they want this to happen. Also, Big Pharma is donated a ton of money to our governmental agencies, and the governmental agencies want to make them happy too because they're going to lose a lot of their funding sources if they don't. There's a lot of bias that's going on, a lot of approvals that are going on of drugs. And we have this research that looks really awesome and good. That goes to the doctors, and we present that research to the doctors. They're looking at the research and they're not really diving in detail. Their doctors are not necessarily statisticians or looking in detail. They know the basics of these type of things, but they're going to gloss over this. They don't have time to really dive into the research and really look at each individual data point, whatever. So they're going to look at the research and be like, wow, this sounds like a really great medication. This is going to be really great for my patients. My patients are suffering with this specific condition. The drugs that I'm prescribing right now aren't that great. So I'm going to prescribe this patent medication that's $4,000 a pop in some instances, especially like other, I won't dive into the medication names or whatever, but they prescribe that based on this flawed research that was done with this synergistically working together type of ideology that's happened between big pharma and the pharmaceutical industry. Now, let's talk about how big government and big pharma work together to go after the competition of big pharma. So, a lot of the donations that are going to the government and our research institutions are coming from big pharma. It's not really coming from, let's say, the supplemental industry or some other health industries or our compounding pharmacies. So these are direct competition to big pharma. So how is compounding pharmacies a big competition to them? What they do is they could take a formula of a certain drug and they can make that drug. And they can make that drug a lot cheaper than that certain medication made by big pharma, for example. So we could talk about like epinephrine real quick. Epinephrine $600 a pop through Big Pharma. A compounded pharmacy I know can make that for about $10 to $30. So Big Pharma's not going to really like that very much if the compounded pharmacy is making epinephrine themselves and selling it for much cheaper. And there's thousands of compounded pharmacies throughout, and it's really hard to control this industry. So they make these medications, they make them from scratch, and they sell them for a lot cheaper. And also, this is direct competition to the patent medications out there too, because the patent medications are treating a certain medical condition, but there's also just hundreds of drugs that treat that medical condition already that are non-patentable. That means that they aren't that drug companies not able just to make money off that drug. Several different people could start making money off that drug, like the compounded pharmacy or elsewhere, and the drug usually gets a lot cheaper at that point. So they don't really want compounded pharmacies around because they're able to make a medication that's a lot cheaper, a ton of competition to them. And they also make it in several different forms for doctors. So it's bad for them. And then there's all kinds of natural sources that people are finding out about. They're finding about several different nutraceuticals and herbs and
Supplements,
whatever.
right?
And that's a huge competition too, right? So let's say you could take turmeric to treat a chronic joint disease, or you could take a drug that costs about $400 a month to be able to treat that, up to maybe $4,000 to $10,000 a month to treat that specific medical condition. Also, you can't patent these natural substances at all. What's interesting is they actually do patent some of these natural substances. There is a drug form of turmeric. There is a drug form of fish oil. There is a drug form of folic acid. So they do mark up the price greatly of these medications. And there's a drug form of marijuana also. So it's very interesting regarding that is they do take certain natural substances, but they add certain amino acids to them to make them that it's their medication now, and then they can make a lot of money off of it. But
One of
it's
the
not
things that
any
I
different at
noticed
all.
though is on the supplements, like I might get, let's say I get a bottle of like, like Cranactin, that's supposed to be good for like bladder infections. It'll say on the
Yeah.
back, this is not has not been approved by the FDA,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Now, why is that the case? Why is it not approved by the FDA? Why is it when you come to a doctor and say, "Okay, I want to take this supplement to help me with this," and that doctor says, "Well, that hasn't been it hasn't been proven. There's not enough research to support that that actually is effective." What's happening in those two situations?
So I tell my patients this all the time, and it might be eye-opening to them, is I have never seen a non-patentable treatment ever be approved by the FDA. We could look in a long history. They are not FDA approves certain patentable medications that are going to be making a lot of money. I have never seen them FDA approve turmeric, which has thousands upon thousands of research articles being beneficial for anti-inflammatory diseases or all kinds of other diseases. Great good research, but they have never patented that. They
So they
never have
only
approved that at all, you
they
know?
only approve the FDA only approves then that which can make money.
Also, the big thing too is the pharmaceutical industry has a lot of money and they could do these tests. They can actually do the studies. They cost millions and millions of dollars. So why is the industry going to do a great deal of like double blind placebo controlled studies on turmeric when they're not going to be able to make any money off of turmeric because they can't patent that? They're
Right.
gonna be doing research and they're gonna be helping thousands of other companies be more
Right.
beneficial, right?
It would
So
make sense, yeah, for them to test, "Okay, let me test this drug, and then let's compare this drug to not doing anything, and then let's also test it compared to a group that's taking turmeric, and then let's test it with a group that's taking the drug and turmeric," or something like that, and then you can actually have these other, like, real true force scenarios to be able to see it, but if they know, well, it's gonna prove that turmeric works just as well as the drug or works better than the drug, then that's not gonna make them money, so why would they spend money doing that, right?
there are studies that do that. It's like they piggyback, certain substances on top of a trial to make it a lot cheaper. I have seen that done, and sometimes that's where we get some of our research on these supplements or whatever. But the thing is there's a lot of manipulation of the data points that are done to make their drug sound a lot better than a certain or supplement or another medication or whatever. So it's very corrupt. If you really go and dive in to talk to a lot of these researchers that are being honest, they know a lot of what they're doing. There's a lot of data manipulation going on, and they lose a lot of faith in what they're doing over time, but they stay in it because that's what they do. Or they want to research a certain area and they stay into that
Right.
arena. But the reason why FDA really approves patented drugs is not necessarily, I'm not going to go there. It's absolute just to make a lot of money to Big Pharma. The reason is that they're only accepting FDA approving certain drugs that have had great deal of studies on them and have gone through phase 1, 2, and 3 trials and have done all that on animal studies and done that all on human studies. This takes millions and millions of dollars. Only people that are going to put the money in that is they know that they're actually going to be making
Right.
triple or quadruple or billions compared to millions on this certain medication. So they're willing to do that. So
Right.
that's never done on any natural substances, and it's never done on non-patentable substances because they're not going to make any money on that because
Right.
a patent lasts about 5 years. So a certain medication loses the patent 5 years, then we get all these generic medications that are so much cheaper. And
Right.
there's not new studies being done on these medications very often at all because there's no money to be made on it. But they already FDA approved. Okay, they're good to go because they already were patent at one point. Now they're FDA approved. But the only new stuff that is FDA approved is patent drugs. I don't see anything else there, and it's because of the studies, but also that obviously is a big moneymaker for the pharmaceutical industry because they have kind of a monopoly in that regard because no other industry is able to compete with that because they don't have the money to do that. Or maybe
Right.
let's just say a supplemental company has the money, but they're not going to do it because they're just doing it on turmeric. And there's thousands of other supplement companies that are going to benefit from that research that's being done.
And the
They might
local
do it on a
cranberry
specific
farmer or the
supplement and
local
that's it.
turmeric farmer, it doesn't have the funds to be able to support
Yeah,
you know,
no.
an
Mhm.
extensive study that lasts that long. Okay, so then summarizing all of this up. Okay, so we obviously can see this relationship. We can see how the research now is involved in supporting, you know, the medical establishment and not anything else. How is this keeping Americans sick? You said at the very beginning, it's not working very well. We're a pretty sick country. Why? How is this making us sick?
Because we as the American people think that the best stuff that we have to treat us for the certain medication is FDA approved medications, right? You always I know I have patients come into me and say, "Hey, is this FDA approved?" Because they think that that's actually going to be an effective and safe medication when that's if it has that label on it. So all we have all kinds of people in the United States just taking FDA approved medications and not taking all kinds of these other highly researched substances that are actually healthier and better for you than doing this. And also the doctors, all they do is prescribe certain medications for a condition instead of saying, "Hey, you actually need to sleep more, you need to eat better, you need to balance out this, you need to take this certain herbal product that could likely help with that," instead of suppressing all these mechanisms of action. What the problem is these drugs all suppress how your body works in a certain way. And that can lead to you being more sick and having to take more medication, more medication, more medication. That's my big goal is I'm trying not to suppress the symptom and but all these medications that we're taking is suppressing these symptoms and making us more sick and more sick because we're not really dealing with the problem. We're not really dealing with our health. We're just taking something that's treating a certain symptom. And all the media that we have all there out there is all just promoting these drugs and that's the way you heal and you don't heal any other way. You can't heal from doing diet. You can't heal from taking supplements. You can't do that. That's not how you
Right,
do it. You only get better through drugs. And
right.
that's why we as in the United States are so sick is because we're just taking tons of drugs to treat things instead of really fixing the problem. At Integrative Medica, we are still able to help you with integrative strategies for now. For more videos on how the FDA is going after integrative medicine, click the video to the right. I'm Dr. Jake, and I'll see you there.